Hello, Namaskar, welcome you to the SAAR Analysis. I am Chaman Naik and here's my take. What if the next geopolitical contest is not about who controls an ocean but who controls its gateway? Nearly one third of global maritime trade and substantial share of East Asia's energy import passes through the Strait of Malacca every year. Well, for decades, every major power has understood one reality: whoever secures influence around this narrow passage shape the Indo-Pacific. Now, this is why Prime Minister Narendra Modi's latest visit to Indonesia deserves far more attention than headlines suggest. Because this isn't simply about building another port, it is about rewriting India's maritime strategy after China expanded its presence across Indian Ocean. Well, to understand the significance of Sabang, we need to understand what has changed. For years, the strategic analysts have described China's maritime expansion as string of pearls. Now, it is a network of commercial ports, logistic hubs, and security access points stretching from South China Sea to Arabian Sea. Now, ports in Pakistan, Sri Lanka, and China's first overseas military base had steadily expanded Beijing operational reach across Indo-Pacific. Whether every project was originally intended as a military use remains still debated, but together they have undeniably increased China's strategic option during the crisis. Well, for India, this has never merely about infrastructure, it has always about geography, and geography cannot be negotiated. This is where Sabang changes the whole equation. Now, it is located at Indonesia's Way Island and northern entrance of Strait of Malacca. Sabang sits barely 160 kilometers from India's Great Nicobar Island, where New Delhi is developing a major transshipment port and strategic logistic hub. Now, it is viewed independently that each project is important, but if they are viewed together, they become something much larger. Well, it is about a dual maritime architecture. Now, Great Nicobar anchors India's eastern island strategy, and Sabang extends India's strategic reach into Southeast Asia. Together, they create shorter shipping routes, strengthen commercial connectivity, improve the disaster response capabilities. It can expand the naval logistic, and it can provide the greater maritime awareness around one of world's busiest sea lanes. Well, this is not just a military alliance, it is a strategic positioning through connectivity. And that distinction matters. Unlike China's infrastructure model, India's Indo-Pacific approach increasingly focuses on partnership, shared logistic and capacity building, and most importantly, the regional trust. Well, the defense agreement announced alongside visit reinforced this broader framework. Indonesia's interest in Indian defense technologies, including discussion around the BrahMos supersonic missile and Astra, signals that relationship is expanding beyond the trade into long-term strategic cooperation. For ASEAN nations navigating competition between major powers, India is increasingly represents an additional security partner without demanding exclusive agreement. Now, this is significant diplomatic advantage. For India, this implication extends far beyond defense. Nearly 95% of the world trade by volume travels by sea. Energy imports, manufacturing supply chains, and export competitiveness all depend upon this secure maritime routes. Every improvement in logistics around this eastern Indian Ocean strengthens India's economic resilience. For business, this could eventually reduce the shipping routes, and for policymaker, it supports Act East policy. And for students, this is an example of how geography shapes the foreign policy. Ports today are no longer just commercial infrastructure, they are the instrument of economic statecraft. Now, here's my take: the real competition between India and China is no longer about building the biggest navy, it is about building the most trusted maritime network. China built influence through infrastructure. India appears increasingly through focus, through building resilience, through partnership. Sabang is unlikely to reverse China's maritime presence overnight for sure, but in geopolitics, it is rarely transformed by a single port. Now it changes where multiple strategic decision begins to reinforce one another over decades, and Sabang may become one of those decisions. Well, history remembers nations not for the ocean they wish to control, but for the choke point they understood before everyone else. From Strait of Hormuz to Panama Canal, from Suez to Malacca, the global power has always followed this maritime geography. With Sabang and Great Nicobar, India is signaling that no longer intends merely sail through Indo-Pacific, it tends to shape it. And in 21st century, they may prove to be one of the most consensual strategic shift in Asia. That's all from today's analysis. I will be back with another episode. Till then, thank you for watching this.